An anti-ballistic missile, ABM, is a surface-to-air missile designed to counter ballistic missiles, see missile defense. Ballistic missiles are used to deliver nuclear, chemical, biological, or conventional warheads in a ballistic flight trajectory. The term anti-ballistic missile is a generic term conveying a system designed to intercept and destroy any type of ballistic threat. However, it is commonly used for systems specifically designed to counter intercontinental ballistic missiles, ICBMs. Current counter-ICBM systems. Strategic missiles, even if within range, an incoming ICBM simply moves too fast for these systems. The Russian A-35 anti-ballistic missile system, used for the defense of Moscow, whose development started in 1971. The currently active system is called A-135. The system uses Gorgon and Gazelle missiles with nuclear warheads to intercept incoming ICBMs. The U.S. Ground-Based Mid-Course Defense, GMD, previously known as National Missile Defense, NMD, system has reached initial operational capability. Instead of using an explosive charge, it launches a kinetic projectile. The George W. Bush administration accelerated development and deployment of a system proposed in 1998 by the Clinton administration. The system is a dual-purpose test and interception facility in Alaska, and in 2006 was operational with a few interceptor missiles. The Alaska site provides more protection against the nuclear threat from North Korean missiles or launches from Russia or China, but is likely less effective against missiles launched from the Middle East. President Bush referenced the September 11 attacks in 2001 and the proliferation of ballistic missiles as reasons for missile defense. The current GMD system has the more limited goal of shielding against a limited attack by a rogue state such as North Korea. Israel's Arrow 3 system entered operational service in 2017. It is designed for exo-atmosphere interception of ballistic missiles during the spaceflight portion of their trajectory, including those of ICBMs. It may also act as an anti-satellite weapon. American plans for Central European site. During 1993, a symposium was held by Western European nations to discuss potential future ballistic missile defense programs. In the end, the Council recommended deployment of early warning and surveillance systems as well as regionally controlled defense systems. During spring 2006, reports about negotiations between the United States and Poland as well as the Czech Republic were published. The plans propose the installation of a latest generation ABM system with a radar site in the Czech Republic and a launch site in Poland. The system was announced to be aimed against ICBMs from Iran and North Korea. This caused harsh comments by Russian President Vladimir Putin at the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, OSCE, Security Conference during spring 2007 in Munich. Other European ministers commented that any change of strategic weapons should be negotiated on NATO level and not unilaterally between the US and other states, although most strategic arms reduction treaties were between the Soviet Union and US, not NATO. German Foreign Minister Frank-Walter Steinmeier expressed severe concerns about the way in which the US had conveyed its plans to its European partners and criticized the US administration for not having consulted Russia prior to announcing its endeavors to deploy a new missile defense system in Central Europe. As of July 2007, a majority of Poles were opposed to hosting a component of the system in Poland. By July 28, 2016, Missile Defense Agency planning and agreements had clarified enough to give more details about the Aegis Ashore sites in Romania, 2014, and Poland, 2018. Current tactical systems. People's Republic of China. Historical Project 640. Project 640 had been the PRC's indigenous effort to develop ABM capability. The Academy of Anti-Ballistic Missile and Anti-Satellite was established from 1969 for the purpose of developing Project 640. The project was to involve at least 3 elements, including the necessary sensors and guidance/command systems, the Fanji, FJ, missile interceptor, and the Xianfeng missile intercepting cannon. The FJ-1 had completed 2 successful flight tests during 1979, while the low-altitude interceptor FJ-2 completed some successful flight tests using scaled prototypes. A high-altitude FJ-3 interceptor was also proposed. Despite the development of missiles, the program was slowed down due to financial and political reasons. It was finally closed down during 1980 under a new leadership of Deng Xiaoping, as it was seemingly deemed unnecessary after the 1972 anti-ballistic missile treaty between the Soviet Union and the United States and the closure of the U.S. Safeguard ABM system. Operational P.R. Chinese system. In March 2006, China tested an interceptor system comparable to the U.S. Patriot missiles. China has acquired and is licensed producing the S300PMU2/S300PMU1 series of terminal ABM-capable SAMs. China-produced HQ-9 SAM system may possess terminal ABM capabilities. PRC navies operating modern air defense destroyers known as the Type 052C destroyer and Type 051C destroyer are armed with naval HQ-9 missiles. The HQ-19, similar to the THAAD, was first tested in 2003, and subsequently a few more times, including in November 2015. The HQ-29, a counterpart to the MIM-104F POC-3, was first tested in 2011. Surface-to-air missiles that supposedly have some terminal ABM capability, as opposed to mid-course capability. HQ-29, HQ-19, HQ-9, FK-3, HQ-18, HQ-10, HQ-16, HQ-15. Development of mid-course ABM in P.R. China. The technology and experience from the successful anti-satellite test using a ground-launched interceptor during January 2007 was immediately applied to current ABM efforts and development. China carried out a land-based anti-ballistic missile test on January 11, 2010. The test was exo-atmospheric and done in mid-course phase and with a kinetic kill vehicle. China is the second country after US that demonstrated intercepting ballistic missile with a kinetic kill vehicle. The interceptor missile was a SC-19. The sources suggest the system is not operationally deployed as of 2010. On January 27, 2013, China did another anti-ballistic missile test. According to the Chinese Defense Ministry, the missile launch is defensive in character and is not aimed against any countries. Experts hailed China's technological breakthrough because it is difficult to intercept ballistic missiles that have reached the highest point and speed in the middle of their course. Only 2 countries, including the US, have successfully conducted such a test in the past decade. Rumored mid-course missiles. DN-3, DN-2, DN-1, HQ-26, SC-19, KT-409. France, Italy, and United Kingdom. Italy and France have developed a missile family called Aster, Aster-15 and Aster-30. Aster-30 is capable of ballistic missile defense. On October 18, 2010, France announced a successful tactical ABM test of the Aster-30 missile, and on December 1, 2011 a successful interception of a Black Sparrow ballistic target missile. Royal Navy Type 45 destroyers and French Navy and Italian Navy Horizon-class frigates are armed with POMs, using Aster-15 and Aster-30 missiles. Is in developing another version, the Aster-30 Block 2, which can destroy ballistic missiles at a maximum range of 3,000 kilometers. It will have a kill vehicle warhead. India. India has an active ABM development effort using indigenously developed and integrated radars, and indigenous missiles. In November 2006, India successfully conducted the PADE, Prithvi Air Defence Exercise, in which an anti-ballistic missile, called the Prithvi Air Defence, PAD, an exo-atmospheric, outside the atmosphere, interceptor system, intercepted a Prithvi-2 ballistic missile. The PAD missile has the secondary stage of the Prithvi missile and can reach altitude of 80 kilometers, 50 miles. During the test, the target missile was intercepted at a 50 kilometers, 31 miles, altitude. India became the fourth nation in the world after United States, Russia, and Israel to acquire such a capability, and the third nation to acquire it using in-house research and development. On December 6, 2007, the Advanced Air Defense (AAD) missile system was tested successfully. This missile is an endo-atmospheric interceptor with an altitude of 30 kilometers, 19 miles. In 2009, reports emerged of a new missile named the PDV. The DRDO is developing a new Prithvi interceptor missile codenamed PDV. The PDV is designed to take out the target missile at altitudes above 150 kilometers, 93 miles. The first PDV was successfully test-fired on April 27, 2014. According to scientist V.K. Saraswat of DRDO, the missiles will work in tandem to ensure a hit probability of 99.8%. On May 15, 2016, India successfully launched Advanced Defense Interceptor Missile named Ashvin Interceptor Missile from Abdul Kalam Island from Odisha coast. Israel. Anti-ballistic missile systems. Arrow 2. The Arrow project was begun after the US and Israel agreed to co-fund it on May 6, 1986. The Arrow ABM system was designed and constructed in Israel with financial support by the United States by a multi-billion-dollar development program called Minhilet Homa, with the participation of companies like Israel Military Industries, Tailor, and Israel Aerospace Industries. During 1998, the Israeli military conducted a successful test of their Arrow missile. Designed to intercept incoming missiles traveling at up to 2 miles/s, 3 kilometers per second, the Arrow is expected to perform much better than the Patriot did in the Gulf War. On July 29, 2004, Israel and the United States carried out joint experiment in the USA, in which the Arrow was launched against a real Scud missile. The experiment was a success, as the Arrow destroyed the Scud with a direct hit. During December 2005, the system was deployed successfully in a test against a replicated Shahab 3 missile. This feat was repeated on February 11, 2007. Arrow 3. The Arrow 3 system is capable of exo-atmosphere interception of ballistic missiles, including of ICBMs. It also acts as an anti-satellite weapon. Lieutenant General Patrick J. O'Reilly, director of the U.S. Missile Defense Agency, said, "The design of Arrow 3 promises to be an extremely capable system, more advanced than what we have ever attempted in the U.S. with our programs." On December 10, 2015, Arrow 3 scored its first intercept in a complex test designed to validate how the system can detect, identify, track and then discriminate real from decoy targets delivered into space by an improved Silver Sparrow target missile. According to officials, the milestone test paves the way toward low-rate initial production of the Arrow 3. David Sling. David Sling, Hebrew, also sometimes called Magic Wand, Hebrew, is an Israel Defense Forces military system being jointly developed by the Israeli defense contractor Rafael Advanced Defense Systems and the American defense contractor Raytheon, designed to intercept tactical ballistic missiles, as well as medium to long-range rockets and slower-flying cruise missiles, such as those possessed by Hezbollah, fired at ranges from 40 kilometers to 300 kilometers. It is designed with the aim of intercepting the newest generation of tactical ballistic missiles, such as Iskander. Japan. Since 1998, when North Korea launched a T-Padang-1 missile over northern Japan, the Japanese have been jointly developing a new surface-to-air interceptor known as the Patriot Advanced Capability 3, PAC-3, with the U.S. So far tests have been successful, and there are planned 11 locations that the PAC-3 will be installed. A military spokesman said that tests had been done on 2 sites, one of them a business park in central Tokyo, and Ichigaya, a site not far from the Imperial Palace. Along with the PAC-3, Japan has installed a US-developed ship-based anti-ballistic missile system, which was tested successfully on December 18, 2007. The missile was launched from a Japanese warship, in partnership with the U.S. Missile Defense Agency, and destroyed a mock target launched from the coast. Soviet Union/Russian Federation. The Moscow ABM defense system was designed with the aim of being able to intercept the ICBM warheads aimed at Moscow and other important industrial regions, and is based on ABM-1 Galosh, decommissioned. A-135 anti-ballistic missile system. ABM-3 Gazelle. ABM-4 Gorgon. 53 T-6. A-235 Nudal, in development. Apart from the main Moscow deployment, Russia has striven actively for intrinsic ABM capabilities of its SAM systems. S-300P, SA-10. S-300V/V4, SA-12. S-300P MU1/2, SA-20. S-400, SA-21. S-500, in development. United States. In several tests, the U.S. military have demonstrated the feasibility of destroying long and short-range ballistic missiles. Combat effectiveness of newer systems against 1950s tactical ballistic missiles seems very high, as the MIM-104 Patriot, POC-1 and POC-2, had a 100% success rate in Operation Iraqi Freedom. The U.S. Navy Aegis Combat System uses RIM-161 Standard Missile 3, which hit a target going faster than ICBM warheads. These systems, as opposed to U.S. GMD system, are not capable of a mid-course intercept of an ICBM. The U.S. Terminal High Altitude Area Defense, THAAD, system began production in 2008. Its stated range as a short to intermediate ballistic missile interceptor means that it is not designed to hit mid-course ICBMs, which can reach terminal phase speeds of Mach 8 or greater. But for terminal phase, a THAAD interceptor's speed can reach Mach 8, and THAAD has repeatedly proven it can intercept descending exo-atmospheric missiles in a ballistic trajectory. The United States Army released information as early as 2004 about their plans to develop a command system that was intended to replace Raytheon's Patriot missile, SAM, engagement control station along with 7 other forms of defense command systems. The system, the Integrated Air and Missile Battle Command System, IBCS, is an anti-ballistic missile defense system designed to shoot down short, medium, and intermediate-range ballistic missiles in their terminal phase by intercepting with a hit-to-kill approach. A prime contractor was announced in 2010. By May 2015, a first flight test integrated a networked IBCS-280 engagement operations center with radar sensor and interceptor launchers. This test demonstrated a missile kill with the first interceptor. By Army doctrine, 2 interceptors were launched against that missile. By November 2016, IBCS tests demonstrated sensor fusion from disparate data streams minute 228 identification and tracking of targets, selection of appropriate kill vehicles, and interception of the targets minute 329. Republic of China. Procurement of MIM-104 Patriot and indigenous Tiancong anti-ballistic missile systems. History of ABMs. 1940s and 1950s. The idea of destroying rockets before they can hit their target dates from the first use of modern missiles in warfare, the German V-1 and V-2 program of World War II. British fighters destroyed some V-1 buzz bombs in flight, although concentrated barrages of heavy anti-aircraft artillery had greater success. Under the Lend-Lease program, 200 US 90mm AA guns with SCR-584 radars and Western Electric/Bell Labs computers were sent to the UK. These demonstrated a 95% success rate against V-1s that flew into their range. The V-2, the first true ballistic missile, was impossible to destroy in the air. SCR-584s could be used to plot the trajectories of the missiles and provide some warning, but were more useful in backtracking their ballistic trajectory and determining the rough launch locations. The Allies launched Operation Crossbow to find and destroy V-2s before launch, but these operations were largely ineffective. In one instance a Spitfire happened upon a V-2 rising through the trees, and fired on it with no effect. This led to Allied efforts to capture launching sites in Belgium and the Netherlands. A wartime study by Bell Labs into the task of shooting down ballistic missiles in flight concluded it was not possible. In order to intercept a missile, one needs to be able to steer the attack onto the missile before it hits. A V2's speed would require guns of effectively infinite reaction time, or some sort of weapon with ranges on the order of dozens of miles, neither of which appeared possible. This was, however, just before the emergence of high-speed computing systems. By the mid-1950s, things had changed considerably, and many forces worldwide were considering ABM systems. The American Armed Forces began experimenting with anti-missile missiles soon after World War II, as the extent of German research into rocketry became clear. Project Wizard began in 1946, with the aim of creating a missile capable of intercepting the V-2. But defenses against Soviet long-range bombers took priority until 1957, when the Soviet Union demonstrated its advances in ICBM technology with the launch of Sputnik, the Earth's first artificial satellite. The U.S. Army accelerated development of their LM-49 Nike Zeus system in response. Zeus was criticized throughout its development program, especially from those within the U.S. Air Force and nuclear weapons establishments who suggested it would be much simpler to build more nuclear warheads and guarantee mutually assured destruction. Zeus was eventually cancelled in 1963. In 1958, the U.S. sought to explore whether air-bursting nuclear weapons might be used to ward off ICBMs. It conducted several test explosions of low-yield nuclear weapons. 1.7 kT boosted fission W-25 warheads launched from ships to very high altitudes over the southern Atlantic Ocean. Such an explosion releases a burst of X-rays in the Earth's atmosphere, causing secondary showers of charged particles over an area hundreds of miles across. These can become trapped in the Earth magnetic field, creating an artificial radiation belt. It was believed that this might be strong enough to damage warheads traveling through the layer. This proved not to be the case, but Argus returned key data about a related effect, the nuclear electromagnetic pulse, NEMP. Canada. Other countries were also involved in early ABM research. A more advanced project was at CARDA in Canada, which researched the main problems of ABM systems. A key problem with any radar system is that the signal is in the form of a cone, which spreads with distance from the transmitter. For long-distance interceptions like ABM systems, the inherent inaccuracy of the radar makes an interception difficult. CARDA considered using a terminal guidance system to address the accuracy concerns, and developed several advanced infrared detectors for this role. They also studied a number of missile airframe designs, a new and much more powerful solid rocket fuel, and numerous systems for testing it all. After a series of drastic budget reductions during the late 1950s, the research ended. One offshoot of the project was Gerald Bull's system for inexpensive high-speed testing, consisting of missile airframes shot from a sabot round, which would later be the basis of Project HARP. Another was the CRV-7 and Black Brant rockets, which used the new solid rocket fuel. Soviet Union. The Soviet military had requested funding for ABM research as early as 1953, but were only given the go-ahead to begin deployment of such a system on August 17, 1956. Their test system, known simply as System A, was based on the V-1000 missile, which was similar to the early U.S. efforts. The first successful test interception was carried out on November 24, 1960, and the first with a live warhead on March 4, 1961. In this test, a dummy warhead was released by AR-12 ballistic missile launched from the Kapustin Yar, and intercepted by a V-1000 launched from Sarishigan. The dummy warhead was destroyed by the impact of 16,000 tungsten carbide spherical impactors 140 seconds after launch, at an altitude of 25 kilometers, 82,000 feet. The V-1000 missile system was nonetheless considered not reliable enough and abandoned in favor of nuclear-armed ABMs. A much larger missile, the Fakal 5V-61, known in the West as Galosh, was developed to carry the larger warhead and carry it much further from the launch site. Further development continued, and the A-35 anti-ballistic missile system, designed to protect Moscow, became operational in 1971. A-35 was designed for exo-atmospheric interceptions, and would have been highly susceptible to a well-arranged attack using multiple warheads and radar blackout techniques. A-35 was upgraded during the 1980s to a two-layer system, the A-135. The Gorgon, SH-11/ABM-4, long-range missile was designed to handle intercepts outside the atmosphere, and the Gazelle, SH-08/ABM-3, short-range missile endo-atmospheric intercepts that eluded Gorgon. The A-135 system is considered to be technologically equivalent to the United States Safeguard System of 1975. American Nike X and Sentinel. Nike Zeus failed to be a credible defense in an era of rapidly increasing ICBM counts due to its ability to attack only one target at a time. Additionally, significant concerns about its ability to successfully intercept warheads in the presence of high-altitude nuclear explosions, including its own, lead to the conclusion that the system would simply be too costly for the very low amount of protection it could provide. By the time it was cancelled in 1963, potential upgrades had been explored for some time. Among these were radars capable of scanning much greater volumes of space and able to track many warheads and launch several missiles at once. These, however, did not address the problems identified with radar blackouts caused by high-altitude explosions. To address this need, a new missile with extreme performance was designed to attack incoming warheads at much lower altitudes, as low as 20 kilometers. The new project encompassing all of these upgrades was launched as Nike X. The main missile was LM-49 Spartan, and Nike Zeus upgraded for longer range and a much larger 5-megaton warhead intended to destroy enemies' warheads with a burst of X-rays outside the atmosphere. A second shorter-range missile called Sprint with very high acceleration was added to handle warheads that evaded longer-ranged Spartan. Sprint was a very fast missile. Some sources claimed it accelerated to 8,000 miles per hour, 13,000 km/h, within 4 seconds of flight, an average acceleration of 90 g, and had a smaller W-66 enhanced radiation warhead in the 1 to 3 kiloton range for in-atmosphere interceptions. The experimental success of Nike X persuaded the Lyndon B. Johnson administration to propose a thin ABM defense that could provide almost complete coverage of the United States. In a September 1967 speech, Defense Secretary Robert McNamara referred to it as Sentinel. McNamara, a private ABM opponent because of cost and feasibility, see cost-exchange ratio, claimed that Sentinel would be directed not against the Soviet Union's missiles, since the USSR had more than enough missiles to overwhelm any American defense, but rather against the potential nuclear threat of the People's Republic of China. In the meantime, a public debate over the merit of ABMs began. Difficulties that had already made an ABM system questionable for defending against an all-out attack. One problem was the fractional orbital bombardment system, FOBS, that would give little warning to the defense. Another problem was high-altitude EMP, whether from offensive or defensive nuclear warheads, which could degrade defensive radar systems. When this proved infeasible for economic reasons, a much smaller deployment using the same systems was proposed, namely Safeguard, described later. The problem of defense against MIRVs. ABM systems were developed initially to counter single warheads launched from large intercontinental ballistic missiles, ICBMs. The economics seemed simple enough, since rocket costs increase rapidly with size. The price of the ICBM launching a large warhead should always be greater than the much smaller interceptor missile needed to destroy it. In an arms race, the defense would always win. In practice, the price of the interceptor missile was considerable, due to its sophistication. The system had to be guided all the way to an interception, which demanded guidance and control systems that worked within and outside the atmosphere. The Nike Zeus was expected to cost about $1 million, about the same as an ICBM. However, due to their relatively short ranges, an ABM missile would be needed to counter an ICBM wherever it might be aimed. That implies that dozens of interceptors are needed for every ICBM. This led to intense debates about the cost-exchange ratio between interceptors and warheads. Conditions changed dramatically in 1970 with the introduction of multiple independently targetable reentry vehicle, MIRV, warheads. Suddenly, each launcher was throwing not one warhead, but several. These would spread out in space, ensuring that a single interceptor would be needed for each warhead. This simply added to the need to have several interceptors for each warhead in order to provide geographical coverage. Now it was clear that an ABM system would always be many times more expensive than the ICBMs they defended against. The Anti-Ballistic Missile Treaty of 1972. Technical, economic, and political problems described resulted in the ABM Treaty of 1972, which restricted the deployment of strategic, not tactical, anti-ballistic missiles. By the ABM Treaty and a 1974 revision, each country was allowed to deploy a mere 100 ABMs to protect a single, small area. The Soviets retained their Moscow defenses. The U.S. designated their ICBM sites near Grand Forks Air Force Base, North Dakota, where Safeguard was already under advanced development. The radar systems and anti-ballistic missiles were approximately 90 miles north/northwest of Grand Forks AFB, near Concrete, North Dakota. The missiles were deactivated in 1975. The main radar site, Parks, is still used as an early warning ICBM radar, facing relative north. It is located at Cavalier Air Force Station, North Dakota. Brief use of Safeguard in 1975/1976. The U.S. Safeguard system, which utilized the nuclear-tipped LM-49A Spartan and Sprint missiles, in the short operational period of 1975/1976, was the second counter-ICBM system in the world. Safeguard protected only the main fields of U.S. ICBMs from attack, theoretically ensuring that an attack could be responded to with a U.S. launch, enforcing the mutually assured destruction principle. SDI experiments in the 1980s. The Reagan-era Strategic Defense Initiative, often referred to as Star Wars, along with research into various energy beam weaponry, brought new interest in the area of ABM technologies. SDI was an extremely ambitious program to provide a total shield against a massive Soviet ICBM attack. The initial concept envisioned large sophisticated orbiting laser battle stations, space-based relay mirrors, and nuclear-pumped X-ray laser satellites. Later research indicated that some planned technologies such as X-ray lasers were not feasible with then-current technology. As research continued, SDI evolved through various concepts as designers struggled with the difficulty of such a large complex defense system. SDI remained a research program and was never deployed. Several post-SDI technologies are used by the present Missile Defense Agency, MDA. Lasers originally developed for the SDI plan are in use for astronomical observations. Used to ionize gas in the upper atmosphere, they provide telescope operators with a target to calibrate their instruments. Tactical ABMs deployed in 1990s. The Israeli Arrow missile system was tested initially during 1990, before the First Gulf War. The Arrow was supported by the United States throughout the 1990s. The Patriot was the first deployed tactical ABM system, although it was not designed from the outset for that task and consequently had limitations. It was used during the 1991 Gulf War to attempt to intercept Iraqi Scud missiles. Post-war analyses show that the Patriot was much less effective than initially thought because of its radar and control system's inability to discriminate warheads from other objects when the Scud missiles broke up during re-entry. Testing ABM technology continued during the 1990s with mixed success. After the Gulf War, improvements were made to several U.S. air defense systems. A new Patriot, PAC-3, was developed and tested. A complete redesign of the PAC-2 deployed during the war, including a totally new missile. The improved guidance, radar, and missile performance improves the probability of kill over the earlier PAC-2. During Operation Iraqi Freedom, Patriot PAC-3s had a nearly 100% success rate against Iraqi TBMs fired. However, since no longer range Iraqi Scud missiles were used, PAC-3 effectiveness against those was untested. Patriot was involved in 3 friendly fire incidents, 2 incidents of Patriot shootings at coalition aircraft and 1 of U.S. aircraft shooting at a Patriot battery. A new version of the Hawk missile was tested during the early to mid-1990s, and by the end of 1998 the majority of U.S. Marine Corps Hawk systems were modified to support basic theater anti-ballistic missile capabilities. MEM-23 Hawk missile is not operational in the U.S. service since 2002, but is used by many other countries. Soon after the Gulf War, the Aegis combat system was expanded to include ABM capabilities. The Standard Missile system was also enhanced and tested for ballistic missile interception. During the late 1990s, SM-2 Block EVA missiles were tested in a theater ballistic missile def.
Please subscribe and thanks for watching.